We are back with a team, not delving too far back into school maths. 3D Pi.
Hello, everyone. My name is Charlie, and I'd like to introduce you to the delightfully named Team Famous. Our project is titled 3D Pi, which at its core is a 3D print marketplace. The idea is to provide a platform for consumers to connect directly with both the designers of 3D models and with people who own 3D printers. Via our site, you would be able to find items that suit your needs and then manufacture them locally. I initially considered the idea about 4 years ago whilst I was studying. To me, 3D printing technology represented a potential revolution in the capitalist structure, the means of production delivered by Amazon into the hands of the proletariat. Clearly, I was reading too much of philosophy. I'm fairly certain our app isn't going to spark a revolution, but hopefully it will impress. And Nick will now take you through a demonstration.
Hi everyone, welcome to our demo. First thing we're going to show you is creating an account via the sign-up page here, just inputting some basic personal details, and most importantly, indicating whether you have a 3D printer and whether you're a designer wishing to upload models. Once you're signed up and signed in, you can view your profile page, which has your personal details, and you can also browse your uploaded models. Onto the models themselves. Here we've got a skull in this very room, and the camera is fully controllable, so you can rotate 360 degrees around the model so you can view it from all angles. We also thought it might be nice to take our skull for a bit of a tour of the area. So here is upstairs, third floor classroom. Outside, just over the road, outside the printworks. Inside the printworks. And somewhere which may be familiar to one or two of you. So from the single design page here, you can contact the designer at the top right. You can also view further details about the model, and you can like it if you so wish. So you can view the designer, price, category, and you can also view a list of users who offer printing services, and you can contact them in a similar way to the way you can contact the designer by completing a simple form here. Now, you don't have to be logged in to browse and view the models, but with it being a commerce app, then a lot of the functionality is based around being a logged-in user. Here we are going to go onto our categories page, so you can select the 3D models by category and view them in that way. Probably one of my favorite features, we've got dark mode here, which you can toggle on and off at any point. So far it's been mainly sort of about the purchasing side of things, but as a designer, then obviously you would want to upload your models to show them against these stunning backdrops, which you can do again by filling out a form with some basic details, and most importantly, the thumbnail URL and the URL of the model itself. Once that's done, you should get a nice confirmation message, and then you'll be able to view your model there. So now I'll hand over to Elizabeth, who's going to talk you through the tech stack we used to build our backend. Thank you.
Cheers. Hi everyone, so I'm going to talk you through the backend that we used for 3D Pi today. So for our backend, we used GraphQL, we also used PostgreSQL, we used Express, and we used Hasura. So some of you might be wondering what GraphQL is, because you've probably never used it in Northcoders. It's like a REST API where you can get data via a query, and you can also update, post, and delete your data via a mutation. But there is a big difference with this in that you're only ever querying from one single endpoint. Someone like REST APIs where you're querying from plenty of different endpoints. It's all just coming from this one endpoint. And as a developer, we found this was so much more efficient, and it just returned only the data you need. It didn't, you didn't have to go through lots and lots of routes. All you have to do is type in your query, and it returns it just what you need. You also get this lovely graphical interface, so you can see your data in this clean, minimal console. And what this does is, it just shows you the data, and it also shows you your available queries and mutations. Initially, we used Express to host this as an HTTP server, But then when we got onto hosting it, we used Hasura, which ties in very nicely with our Postgres data and also GraphQL itself. So we hosted this on Heroku. It only took about 5 to 10 minutes, which was quite surprising to us all, really. And same again, it just gives you this very intuitive control panel. You can view all of your queries and available mutations. You can add and update and delete the data there and then. And it integrates very fluidly with the front end. I would say if you are, building APIs or building backends, definitely look into GraphQL, because I'd go out on a limb and say I think it is the future. Also, in terms of testing, we used a combination of Mocha and Easy GraphQL. We were looking at supertests as well, but we found that Mocha and Easy GraphQL did seem to work a lot more smoothly. And also in terms of front end, we tested with Lighthouse. So Lighthouse is kind of built into Google Chrome if you go into inspect and then audits. And what this does is it just gives you some really helpful tips and insights into your site's performance. Again, if you're developing in the front end, definitely use this, because it's free and it's quick, and it's something that's going to improve the performance of your site ultimately. In terms of front end, I'm going to pass you over to Fraser, who's going to talk to you a bit more about that.
Okay, hello, front end. All right. So we use React, Three.js, Apollo, and Material UI. Honestly, we absolutely love using React. We've used it before in the course previously, so it was perfect, and that's one of the main reasons why we did choose to use it, because we're all familiar with it. So if we did have an issue, then we could all just slam it head on, and we'd all have some form of understanding of what's going on. React was also perfect for using Material UI, which is a component library, and that's really helped out with the CSS workload and also just laying the components out correctly. It was also able to be integrated with Three.js, which was perfect because that's what dealt with the 3D imagery. So that was just what we needed, really. And that leads me on to Three.js. Three.js is a cross-browser 3D JavaScript graphics library, and it basically renders 3D computer graphics on a computer browser. At first, we weren't going to use Three.js, sorry. We'd done loads of research, and we were basically trying to figure out what we wanted to do. And after doing a lot of research, we actually looked at React 360. But after a while, we realized that React 360 was mainly used with VR, and that wasn't really what was perfect for our project. After a little bit more spiking and trying to get things running locally, Three.js we realized was perfect for what we wanted to achieve. So in our project, the three main parts, which are all mounted on the page at the start, are the scene. And the scene, we add the custom lighting, which is to obviously brighten up the image. The custom objects, which are the objects of the skull, for example. And the mesh textures, which was the background of each room, the 3D image that we took. Another point was a function to add the custom objects to the scene. That was obviously big, so we want to render the objects on the page. And then the recursive animation loop, which calls a render function and passes in the camera and the scene to obviously keep updating the canvas with what we want. At the start, Three.js was horrible. It was hard to pick up. Obviously, it's awesome now, and we only scratched the surface of it, but it was super hard to get the hang of. And at one point, I spent around 6 hours trying to render a slice of bread on my screen, and that was not fun. But yeah, after a while, we all got used to it. We figured out it was a bit more predictable, because at the start it was very unpredictable. But and our knowledge grew a bit more. And honestly, if you ever get the chance to use it, really give it a go. We also used Apollo, which is an easy tool for incorporating GraphQL queries and mutations into React projects. So we actually were able to get the data back and present what we wanted onto the page. So it was kind of perfect, really. And on that note, I'm going to pass you on to Shiva, who's going to talk through what we learnt and our problems.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to speak about the problems that we faced during this project. As you know, that we used GraphQL, which was very new for us, and we haven't done that before. We used REST API before, which was very different. As you know that in the REST API, we have multiple endpoints that you can send requests from your front end and get the data that you want to have in your front end. But in the GraphQL, we only have one endpoint, which is very simple. Seems very easy. But actually, when we wanted to apply these things such as mutation, which is post request and patch request, it was very confusing and tricky. And the reason was there wasn't very good documentation there. Like we used before that, like search something and find something very easily and learn it. But this one was a bit hard to understand it. And we had to stick to simple example and try to sort out the problem. But the approach that we had and was very useful was a VS Code live share that we used the first day. We sat all together, all the team, and we, after some searching and learning, and we just shared all the information together, and we could handle a lot of things in one day, which was very useful. The other thing that I'm going to speak about is errors, that we know that all developers always care about errors. But as we understood that GraphQL itself handles loads of error, but we actually didn't have enough time to put and find out how this error handling works in the backend for GraphQL. So we decided to address that in front end, which we use library called Apollo Client Server, which helps you with error handling. But believe me, it's not as easy that you had it in the REST API. You can't do it that much easy. The things that we noticed in this project that maybe GraphQL is the best option, is the best solution for mobile development, which you have a rich UI and you have so much data that you want to your app be quick and fast. So and you have also limitation with your bandwidth. So this can be a big and good solution. The other things that I want to tell you was Three.js, as Fraser said. We had challenges like we couldn't get render all kind of file types. So at the moment, we hosted our 3D models on Dropbox, but in future, when we get time, we absolutely want to work on it and implement a system that a user maybe can drag and drop the file. They can use the application. And the last one was Material UI, which was very nice. We could use all those reusable components, but it was a bit tricky when you want to customize it. From my past experience, I noticed that maybe in the short time, Bootstrap is the better option. That you don't need to deal with a lot of CSS stuff. And that's it. Thank you. If any question.